I'm looking back and I'm looking at everybody else. I'm thinking, this is how I'm gonna die. So now that you've heard a little bit about my racing career, along the way I've met a lot of interesting folks, especially some drivers. Drivers are always unique. Drivers are like Apache pilots, I've learned. If you want to know an Apache pilot, they'll tell you. But they always have unique personalities, and everyone thinks that they can drive, but until you've actually ridden with a driver, you really don't know that you can drive. And so I started racing with Roush. This is about the '09 time frame, and we've done okay. But we decided to bring in this young kid, and this young kid who had beat us before in a Porsche. And so we go to a test at Virginia International Raceway. And we're there, and Colin Brown is there, which is a really accomplished road racer. Some other developmental Roush drivers are there. And this young kid named Billy Johnson comes in, and he's the one who had beat us. And so I'm meeting him and kind of feeling him out and trying to get his personality and get to know him. And so Performance Friction was helping us test our FR500 at the time. We were trying to get a little bit better on our brakes because we actually had some of the smallest brakes in the class, and so we were trying to just optimize them as best we could. And so they had a Tahoe, this huge Tahoe that had these huge rotors on it. It had 22-inch rims, 16-inch rotors in the front, probably 15s in the back. And Billy had apparently driven this car before, and he goes, "You guys want to go around the track in the Tahoe?" And I'm like, yeah, I'd like to do that. So I think I'm in the back right behind Billy. Colin Brown is in the passenger seat, and I think Jack Jr. was beside us. And so we get in this Tahoe, and we start going around the track. And so if you know anything about VIR, before you get to the oak tree, it has S's on kind of like turn 3, I believe, and they kind of go off camber. So you're doing this as you're going through these S's, and you're in a Tahoe, which is already top heavy. And we're going through there, and this car is bouncing off the speed limiter. It's going bzz, 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 and I'm looking back, and I'm looking at everybody else. I'm thinking, this is how I'm gonna die. This is how I'm gonna die. And Billy's up there driving, and he's looking back at us saying, everything okay? And we're driving, and I said, well, this is how I'm gonna die. And so we get to like the turn at Oak Tree, and he goes, yeah, I think you can hit the brakes here at the 2. And so this thing is bouncing off the speed limiter, and he hits the brakes hard, and the thing sits on its nose, and the thing almost comes to a stop. He goes, oh yeah, we could have waited later in that turn. And I'm thinking, okay, well, I hope I've got everything accomplished I want to accomplish. And so sure enough, we go around VIR, and about 3/4 of the way through the lap, I'm like, wow, there's some people who know how to do this and some people who don't. And that was the first time I really realized that, there were people born to drive. And Billy was one of them. And so sure enough, the next time we got through the S's, the next time through, I'm like, okay, this is cool. I'm just going to sit back and enjoy it. Sure enough, we get to the one at Oak Tree, and he sits there on her nose, and it makes the turn just perfect. And this Tahoe was just screaming down through there. And later that year, the fall of '09, we won our first race at Utah at Miller Motorsports Park, and we beat Bill Auberlin in a BMW. And probably never forget that race my whole life. It was a really great battle at Continental Tire Series. Anybody who was there, you would know, you would remember seeing it go dark, and you just see nothing but rotors glowing of those two cars racing. And so that was one of the best nights that we've ever had in racing. And over the next couple of years, we won the 400th win for Roush in Miami in 2010. We won about 10 or 11 races over the next couple of years. Daytona twice, Mid-Ohio a couple of times. We won Watkins Glen, New York. So a lot of historic tracks, which is really cool to be a part of as a race engineer, and to call those races and call the fuel strategy in those races. and to be able to work with drivers like Jack Roush Jr. And Billy Johnson, it was a really unique experience. And to this day, I'll be in the car with Billy, and there'll be other people with us, and I'll be in the back asleep, and he'll be driving, whatever, in a rental car or whatever, and I'll be asleep, and everybody will be like, "How can you sleep?" I'm like, "He was meant to do this. What can you say?" So Billy to this day is racing at Le Mans. He's racing in Le Mans in 2016 and was there for that race. He's won I believe he won at Spa last year. He's one of the biggest developmental drivers for Ford at this time. He developed the 350, the new GT500. Got to race with him and with Multimatic when they were developing the flat plane crank car for the GT350. Was really instrumental in developing the Ford GT race car as well as the street car. And so he's got a really great career ahead of him, and I hope people continue to pick him up, because he's raced actually a couple of times in Xfinity as well, or the Busch Series. And one of the funniest memories I have of him in the Busch Series was we were at Road America we were racing the Continental Tire car, and Carl Edwards was doing back-to-back. He wanted to do Busch races, road racing, as well as other races, and so Billy was set to set his car up at Road. I think it was pretty sure it was Road America, and so Carl couldn't get back and forth across the country to set the car up, so Billy was doing it. So I was helping Billy with that, and we go into Carl Edwards' hauler, and it was Fastenal, I think it was the sponsor at the time, and we're in there, and Carl Edwards comes into the hauler and says, "Oh, I thought I was the best road racer here," in the hauler. And then he sees Billy. So it was kind of a cool thing that Carl Edwards acknowledged that Billy was a better road racer than him, and Billy had taught him how to do that. And to this day, Billy still teaches a lot of the Ford Performance drivers and how to race in road racing. So it's pretty cool accomplishment for him, and it was cool to help him with his career and just kind of be along for the ride.